Exxon Valdez was departing from the Alaska Pipeline Terminal at 9:12 p.m. on March 23, 1989. William Murphy was the expert hired to control the 986-foot vessel through the Valdez Narrows in the wheelhouse. He was accompanied by the captain, Joe Hazelwood, and Harry Clare. At the time, Harry was steering the vessel, but after passing through the Narrow, the pilot Murphy had left the wheelhouse and the captain took over. During its route, the ship had encountered icebergs, and the captain had ordered Harry to take the ship around the icebergs, then handed the controls over to Gregory Cousins with special instructions to get the ship back into the shipping lanes after a certain point. Both men failed to make the turn back, and the ship ran onto a reef at exactly 12:04 a.m. The captain was seen in a local bar, admitted to having some alcohol drinks, and a blood test showed alcohol in his blood even several hours after the accident. The captain has always insisted that he was not impaired by alcohol. The state, however, charged him with operating a vessel while under the influence of alcohol. A jury in Alaska, however, found him not guilty of that charge. The jury did find him guilty of negligent discharge of oil and misdemeanor. He was fined $50,000 and sentenced to 1,000 hours of community service in Alaska. He completed this community service ahead of schedule in 2001. He picked up trash along the highway and worked at a Beans Cafe, a soup kitchen for the homeless in Alaska. At the time, Exxon Valdez was carrying about 53 million gallons of oil and had spilled around 11 million gallons or 257,000 barrels of oil into the water. Picture the swimming pool at your school or community. The amount of spilled oil is roughly equivalent to 17 Olympic-sized swimming pools. The Exxon Valdez spill, though still one of the largest ever in the United States, has dropped from the top 50 internationally. It is still widely considered the #1 spill worldwide in terms of damage to the environment, however. The timing of the spill, the remote and spectacular location, the thousands of miles of rugged and wild shoreline, and the abundance of wildlife in the region combined to make an environmental disaster well beyond the scope of other spills. Approximately 1,300 miles of shoreline was impacted by the oil spill. By comparison, there is roughly more than 9,000 miles of shoreline in the region. The spill covered an area that stretched 460 miles from the Belief Reef to the tiny village of Chignig on the Alaska Peninsula.
Yeah. You know, don't nothing come easy. You gotta try real hard. I tried hard, but I guess I gotta try hard.
No one really knows the exact numbers, but the carcasses of more than 35,000 birds and 1,000 sea otters were found after the spill. But since most of the carcasses sank, this is considered to be a small fraction of the actual death toll. The best estimates are 250,000 seabirds, 2,800 sea otters, 300 harbor seals, 250 bald eagles, and up to 22 killer whales, and billions of salmon and herring eggs were killed as well. There are 3 primary ways oil injures wildlife. 1. The oil gets on the fur and feathers and destroys the insulation value. Birds and mammals then die off from hypothermia. They get too cold. 2. They eat the oil either while trying to clean the oil off the fur and feathers or while scavenging on dead animals. The oil is a poison that causes death. And 3. The oil impacts them in a way that does not lead to a quick death, such as damaging the liver or causing blindness. An impaired animal cannot compete for the food and avoid predators. Oil also affects animals in non-lethal ways, such as impairing reproduction. I've been so faded, trying to erase it, but I just can't, 'cause the drama just goes greater. And I've been in so many collisions. Lingering injuries still continue to plague some injured species while others are fully recovered. It took more than 4 summers of cleanup efforts before the effort was called off. Not all beaches were cleaned, and some beaches still remain oiled today. At its peak, the cleanup effort included 10,000 workers, about 1,000 boats, and roughly 100 airplanes and helicopters. This was known as Exxon's Army, Navy, and Air Force. It is still widely believed, however, that wave action from winter storms did more to clean the beaches than all the human effort involved. Exxon says it spent about $2.1 billion on the whole cleanup effort. Hot water treatment was popular until it was determined that the treatment could be causing more damage than the oil. Small organisms were literally being cooked by the hot water. High pressure treatment involved using cold water and hot water, with dozens of people holding fire hoses and spraying the beaches. The water with floating oil would trickle down to the shore. The oil would then be trapped within several layers of boom and either be scooped up, sucked up, or absorbed using special oil-absorbing materials. Mechanical cleanup was attempted on some beaches. Backhoes and other heavy equipment would till the beaches to expel oil underneath so that it could be washed out. Many beaches were fertilized to promote growth of microscopic bacteria that eat the hydrocarbons, known as bioremediation. This method was successful on several beaches where the oil was not too thick. A few solvents and chemical agents were used, although none extensively. The spill remains the most costly oil accident in the world. Volunteers rushed to Valdez to scrub otters and ducks with gentle soap, only to watch them die. The most positive results from the disaster involve oil tanker safety. In 1990, the U.S. Congress passed the Oil Pollution Act, requiring a phase-out of single-hulled oil tankers in the U.S. waters by 2010, a belated acknowledgement that a double-hulled tanker would have contained much of the oil loss from the Exxon Valdez. The act set up a liability fund, toughened spill disaster plans, and created a mechanism for citizens-led oversight committees to police safety claims by shippers.